Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack.
What am I going to do? He robs banks.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
What the hell told my brain to steal that cheese on a Tuesday?
With Margaret Abels
And Amy Wilson.
And then you're, a country song.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas.
so you don't have to.
The problem with the duct tape is you're like, sure, this fixes the AC. Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. Today, we're going to talk about something called radical acceptance. It's a buzzword out there about how to negotiate your life and your relationships more effectively. And I kept seeing it, and I was like, I want to do a deep dive on what this is and how we can use it in our parenting and our relationships. And I'm so glad I did. This is actually really fascinating stuff.
I'm excited because it's a buzzword that I reject outright, knowing nothing about it.
Right.
So I'm hoping that you can. It seems like something people say that seems like a bad idea to me, I guess. So
they're getting it wrong. The people who are doing the things you think it shouldn't be are actually not getting it right. So we're going to go through it all.
Look at it and I'm like, I think that's just denial.
No. There's so much more to it. Well, first, let's start with our mailbag.
Good.
Mailbag. Mary in our Facebook group says, I'm a longtime listener of the podcast, and I just want to say I loved the recent episodes, not specifically about parenting, like the wellness industry and when women get sick. Those were 2 fresh takes we did recently. Mary says, I like hearing Amy and Margaret's perspectives on so many things. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun to talk about. I mean, parenting involves radical acceptance. It involves wellness. I remember when we started the podcast almost a decade ago, somebody said to me, well, how are you going to find enough that you can talk about something different every week? And since then, we've been doing 3 episodes a week for 10 years. And it's funny. We don't run out of
stuff.
About.
But sometimes
the scope might get a little larger, but we're not running out of things to talk about.
Sometimes we do episodes that are about the parent, the woman, not about the kid. And this is going to be one of them, but there's no question that this does have knock-on effects for parenting.
All right, hit me with radical acceptance.
Ready?
I'm just learning this episode. I'm excited.
So the history of the term radical acceptance. Most of us have heard of the Serenity Prayer. It was made popular by Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12 steps groups, but it's sort of the most basic statement of this that was written in the 1930s by a theologian named Reinhold Niebuhr. He wrote, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, my grandmother used to have that on her wall. That's been around for a while, that idea.
I mean, I've heard that poem 850,000 times, and I'm not going to lie, I just got goosebumps when you said it out loud.
Yeah.
It is one of the wisest pieces of writing in existence.
Yes, it is the work of living. And so that's kind of what radical acceptance is. So if you've heard that poem, if you understand that idea, you understand that. But radical acceptance as a term, it just came into being in the 1990s. There's a psychologist named Marsha Linehan. I'll put a link to a video of her explaining radical acceptance in the show notes. Her definition of radical acceptance, and she was the one who coined this term, as far as I could see, fully accepting reality as it is, without judgment or resistance, even when it's painful or undesirable.
I mean, this is something as someone who deals with OCD that I've been working on a lot, which is OCD, as I've come to understand it through therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a mental health expert. Take this all with a grain of salt as just a person who suffers from OCD, who's thought a lot about it. It's a behavior, like Amy would say, it's the tip of the iceberg, right? You have to figure out what's underneath it. So like I'm touching stuff all the time because I just got a test done that has a marker on it that might be something bad. And so let me sit, and my therapist will often say, let's think about the worst that could happen. Okay, this could be cancer, and I could be dying, and I could be leaving my children behind, whatever. Like, let's say the really scary thing out loud. And then let's back up from that, because that's not even the reality. It's just my behavior is coming from a place of not wanting to think about the fact that this could be something bad.
That's right. Well, there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of struggling and suffering that comes from wishing the circumstances of our lives were different. So in this case of I'm waiting on a test, that's a valid approach to play out. Here's what could happen. I think that radical acceptance would be, I'm feeling anxious about these test results. Wow, that palpitation I'm having, that like slightly more jittery feeling I have, I'm feeling anxiety about these test results. That just is. It is. And no matter how hard I try to climb out of my feelings by taking it out of my kids and being short with my spouse or whatever, that doesn't change the fact that I'm feeling anxious and I'm waiting on test results. That's the fact that I'm living with right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. The reality is underneath it, you're trying to avoid, which is like,
right.
I'm speaking in hypotheticals now. None of these examples are true for me currently. My marriage is failing. Someone important in my life is dealing with a drug problem that I can't control or accept. My kid is going to fail ninth grade. The pretending it's not happening is so much effort and anxiety.
Right. Or rowing against it. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I tend towards this, which is I can dance as fast as I can. And as my mother used to say, tap dance and spit wooden nickels and everything will be okay.
Right.
Rather than just sitting with the bad feeling.
Just sitting with it. So in 2003, this woman named Tara Brach, I'm also going to put up a video of her explaining radical acceptance. So she's a psychologist and a Buddhist, so super, super chill. And she wrote a book called Radical Acceptance.
Super chill.
I mean, chill. You should see how centered she is and how long of a pause she feels comfortable taking in between thoughts. Like, she's really interesting to observe. I was like, wow, she is going to take her time and sit with it.
Girl is radically accepting.
Yes. She's radically accepting. And she says that's the willingness to experience ourselves and our lives as it is, not as we wish it would be. So you have to accept whatever it is that you can't change, control, escape, or avoid without having your brain rationalize and shift perspectives, without getting caught up in blame or judgment or self-judgment. You just accept the situation as it is and not what you think it should be.
Right.
Which is,
so some of the things we're getting away from are, if I had behaved differently, this would have never happened. I could fix this if I was just a better spouse.
I can't believe it's raining on my wedding day, you know?
Right.
And spending your day frustrated that it's raining on your wedding day instead of being on your wedding day and accepting that it's raining. The frustration
and the anger with your circumstances, or the disappointment with your circumstances, or the guilt surrounding your circumstances. This is just accept the circumstances as they are.
You don't have to like them, right? Some people say this really should be called radical acknowledgement, because what you're really doing is, I acknowledge that my dad drinks too much, and I don't have to like it. I don't have to accept it, but I have to acknowledge that that is a reality in my life that I can like or not like, or worry about or not worry about, and it's going to continue to exist.
I have to say, I would have liked radical acknowledgement much better.
Yeah.
Radical acceptance seems to me like I accept that my husband is abusive or something. I don't think you should accept that. But now I'm hearing it and I'm like, oh, that's not really what this is saying. It's the wisdom. It's the courage to change the things, you know. It's knowing which is a variable and which is a constant, which I say all the time because it's something I'm constantly working on.
So, yeah, I think that coming into this, I had a lot of misconceptions about what radical acceptance was. So this is what it is. And it might be easier to talk through some of these things that you might think it is.
Yeah,
but it's actually not at all.
I probably do. Yes.
So the first one is radical acceptance doesn't mean resignation.
This is, frankly, radical acceptance. I apologize. I mean, I owe you a strong apology.
Radically acknowledge that
I want to radically acknowledge I was wrong.
Yeah.
About you, radical acceptance.
But this is where it gets hard. One of the things I learned about radical acceptance from doing all this work is it's not the end of the rainbow. It's not a fixed state. It's a back to one.
Yeah.
But this is the reality I'm dealing with right now. I wish that my kid wasn't sick the weekend of my sister's wedding because how am I going to do both things now? But it is, it's just that deep breath and acceptance of where you are. So it is what it is. It's not like throw your hands up and be fatalistic. What's the point? It's not that at all, even though it seems like it.
Right.
Seems like that's what it is.
It's not disconnecting from reality. It's leaning into reality.
Yes.
I think of it a little bit more like I'm going to sit here in the lotus position and meditate while the house burns down. And that's not what it is.
Right. It's not about giving in, and it's not about signing off, and it's not about condoning. It's not about approving. Going back to like my dad drinks too much as an example, you can see where this really comes into play in 12-step programs, although it's definitely not, it's a particularly intense version of a place where this could be applied and useful, but it's not the only place. You don't have to agree with it to acknowledge its existence. It's just that you are acknowledging to yourself that this is a situation you are in, and you're going to think about that and not about the situation you wish you had instead.
And I think that we say it all the time, and I haven't thought of it as radical acceptance. The first step is telling the truth always, whether it's looking at your finances or looking at your marriage or accepting the kind of kid you actually have versus the kind of kid you might have wanted, or how it's going with your career. That until you are ready to tell the truth about a situation, you have no power in the situation.
And this is about telling the truth to yourself.
That's who you're always, right? That's what I mean. It doesn't even mean saying it out loud. It's just like, stable misery, which Dr. Lynetta Willis introduced us to, and it's become this touchstone for me. But you have to look at it and say, we're going to stop gliding through and not looking at the things and just patching. My cousin runs a restaurant and he's in the restaurant business, and he was talking about this business, and he said to his guy who was calling him about something going on in the restaurant, are we going to fix it or are we going to duct tape it? And he's like, the day you start duct taping is the day your restaurant starts failing. And it's fine sometimes to be like, we're just going to duct tape it and keep making money until we can get out of it. But I think that's a great metaphor for what we're talking about. Are we going to duct tape it or are we going to fix it?
Right.
You can duct tape it for a long time, but not forever. Or you can fix it, but fixing it is harder.
Or maybe you can I can acknowledge that I'm using duct tape and that this is where I need to be right now, but I'm not going to pretend that everything's going great at my restaurant.
Right. The problem with the duct tape is you're like, sure, this fixes the AC. It doesn't fix it. You put duct tape on it, guys.
Right. Okay, we'll be back with even more things that radical acceptance actually is not. Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE. All right, this was the one that really blew my mind. Radical acceptance is not about suppressing your feelings. It's actually about centering your feelings. To me, your radical acceptance would have been, it doesn't matter how you feel that you got fired from your job, like accept it, whatever. It's your reality, get used to it. Your feelings are useless. They don't matter.
No, that's denial, as I was saying. That's what I thought radical acceptance was, which is I don't want to feel bad that my beloved pet is dying. You know that's a hypothetical because I've never owned a beloved pet. I've owned pets, but never a beloved pet.
An indifferent cat or two, right?
Yeah, I mean, no offense, ladies. I like you, but I'm not going to mourn when it's time for you to cross the rainbow bridge. But, right, rather than acknowledging my beloved pet is dying, I'm just going to accept that all things die, and therefore I don't have to feel sadness. That's my cliche of radical acceptance, but that's not right. I get
That's not right. It isn't that your feelings don't matter. It isn't that you're supposed to ignore your feelings. It actually starts with, we'll talk about like here are the steps of radical acceptance. But the first step, flashing ahead here, is actually thoroughly investigating your inner experience. How do I feel right now? And it means sitting with things that might come up like guilt or grief or pity, or using the example of like, I'm waiting on the results of this medical test, fear of the unknown. What is this discomfort I'm feeling? Name it. It's a feeling, and you acknowledge that feeling. It doesn't mean feeling better. It doesn't mean deciding you're not going to worry about it. It means acknowledging this is the reality, and these are my actual feelings about it.
Yeah, this is so deep, but it's so simple, which is that you could spend your whole life. Every example I'm using is a hypothetical. I'm just throwing stuff out. So I don't pull
These are all
quotes and be
hypotheticals.
like, oh, this is what my life is about. It's
Margaret
not true.
doesn't love pets.
That's true. Sorry.
Don't ask.
Just, that one is fine. I don't love pets because I just don't. Sorry. Let me use an example that has nothing to do with my life. You could spend your whole life being like, I can make my mother love me by tap dancing and spinning wooden nickels and walking across the floorboards and trying to fit yourself into some mystery shape. Or you can radically accept at some point that your mother doesn't love you and is not capable of loving you.
Right.
And option 2 is fundamentally better.
Yes.
And
Even if you even feel terrible about it, because you feel terrible about it now. Right.
It's awful. You can accept the fact that your spouse has a drug problem that is intractable and that they are in no way seeming like they're going to fix. And it doesn't involve you. It's them. You know, it's their battle. You can't save them. You can't love them enough. You just have to feel the feelings. That's where I think that radical acceptance sometimes gets a little lost. That I just have to accept that my husband turned out to be a bank robber and is in jail.
It's about radically accepting how angry you are that your husband is a bank robber or whatever it is.
Right. It's letting the feelings in, whereas I think of radical acceptance as being goony goo goo zen, like, oh, well, my husband turned out to be a bank robber. Okay, well, I'll just keep going. It's the opposite of that.
It's the opposite of that.
What does it really mean that I married a criminal who I thought was a good person, but really has been robbing banks the whole time?
Right. Here I am. Yeah. It's also not about excusing bad behavior. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? He robs banks. What am I supposed to do about it? It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean I have to ignore all the suffering in the world because there's nothing that anybody can do about anything. It doesn't mean that your narcissist mother won't bother you the next time you see her at Christmas. It's just that you will be less surprised by it.
Yeah, I mean, that I think is a lesson that I've learned again and again in my life, that I call it drunk Uncle Bob at Thanksgiving, but that may not be the best example. And I don't mean it to be flip, but if you invite drunk Uncle Bob to Thanksgiving, you're going to have drunk Uncle Bob at Thanksgiving. You're never going to get the right version of him, the good version. I had somebody once say, talking about their relationship with their mom, I called my mom and I just didn't get the mom I needed. And that was just one day. Like, I think a decent mom who you were looking for, attaboy, and they gave you get your act together. That happens in relationships all the time. But just being able to say the scary thing out loud and then sit with the feelings. It's why it's so hard to do. I guess your whole brain and nervous system is designed to protect you from pain and harm.
Yeah.
And it starts by telling the truth.
So there are 2 steps to radical acceptance. And we've talked a lot about the first component, which is, these are Tara Brach's definitions. The first step is mindfulness, that she says you can't honestly accept an experience unless you see clearly what you're accepting. So you sit with it, you hold it. It's time for me to stop denying it. My husband robs banks, right? And this is the reality. He's in jail and I don't have the money to bail him out. This is where I am at. You feel that fear. You feel that shakiness. You don't try to paper it over. You don't try to make sure nobody at school pickup knows you're sad. Like, you don't immediately rush to that. You sit with this moment of mindfulness, this sacred pause, she calls it.
I like that.
And then the second step, she calls these the wings, because she is very new age. Like, your one wing is mindfulness and your other wing is compassion. So here I am. I'm feeling really frightened that I might basically be a single parent now. What am I going to do? I feel so scared. And then you meet that moment with compassion. I'm going to quote some Rumi. I know you like Rumi, the poet.
Oh, Rumi.
Rumi says, keep your gaze on the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you. So that's the second step. Like, wow, I am really wounded right here. And then keep your gaze there. Don't look away. Don't deny, minimize, tell yourself you don't have a right to feel that way. You stay with it.
I think sometimes, is this right? I'm just literally thinking out loud, that sometimes the bigger wounds are easier to do this with. It's the smaller wounds and the more shameful wounds that are harder to do this with. I think sometimes my husband died, for example, is a wound where, like, your community surrounds you and supports you, you know?
Paul Simon, you know, that, what is the song about? Everybody sees the hole in your heart. Everybody sees you're blown apart. Everybody hears the wind blow. Graceland. It's in Graceland.
Yes.
And he says, losing love is like a window in your heart. Everyone sees it. So that's what you're saying. Like, everybody can see it.
They can see it.
It's harder, and it's also harder to hide. You have no choice but to radically accept your new reality.
That's right. And I think that this can be harder if, A, my husband left me for another woman, right? Everyone just kind of feels like, poor you.
And
also,
I saw
you're
at the
kind
supermarket.
of a loser, and all alone now after all your heart. Like, you don't want to let that in. You don't want to let pity in. You want to let love in. You want to let compassion in. But sometimes what's coming into the wound is really gross, you know? And I also sometimes think the wounds that we feel ashamed about. So let me, again, use a completely hypothetical example. My child has started vaping, acting out, rebelling in a way that feels to me like a failure as a parent. That's a wound that doesn't feel very accessible to other people. It's harder to accept because the story around it, and then you're hiding it from people. God forbid anyone knows that my kid didn't get into any of the colleges they applied to, or my kid is using drugs. My kid is having struggles with mental illness. My kid has autism or has a disease that I find, or a condition that I find embarrassing or upsetting, or like they're not as good as the other kids, but I'm not allowed to feel that feeling because I'm their mom and my only job is to love them. But my kid is doing unlovable things and I'm struggling with that, but I'm never allowed to say that out loud because as a mother, if you ever feel that, you're a horrible person.
That's exactly right. And you know what this is? This is the second arrow, the Buddhist idea of the second arrow.
Hit me with the second arrow again. We've definitely talked about it.
But Carla Naumburg brought it to my attention, but it's a Buddhist idea. It's not her idea. And so they talk about this with radical acceptance too. So in Buddhism, there's this idea of when you're hit with an arrow, you're actually hit with two arrows. The first shot, when you're struck by that arrow and the arrow hits your leg and you look down, is pain. There's an arrow in my leg. That suffering is inevitable. That is, ow, there's an arrow. Ow, blood, pain, whatever. The second shot is what causes the suffering. And that suffering, according to Buddhist thought, is optional. It's your reaction that is compounding pain on this. So for your example of my kid didn't get into any of the colleges they wanted to. And on top of that, disappointment, that it's really your kid's arrow, right? But you're feeling it just as keenly because you're the mom. You're feeling that keen disappointment and sadness that they're feeling. And then on top of it, you feel shame. You feel that you should have done more, your if onlys and why not, and the resentment and the this. All of that is causing more suffering, but those are optional reactions.
I struggle with the word optional.
Well, I do too.
I don't think they're totally optional, but I do think that sometimes on top of that, you're going around and collecting pain that's not even there. Everybody is so embarrassed for me. All my
the stories you tell yourself. Right.
You're going out of your way to say, let's say, I mean, in my career, I've had pretty much a long string of different failures. The failure is painful for me. I didn't get the job I wanted. I never sold the script I worked for 2 years on. I wanted to be Tina Fey and I, never worked out. I never got famous. I never got rich doing it. But then all my friends from high school just look at me and they're like, she wanted it and she didn't get it. What a failure. Like, I'm going around collecting pain that nobody's even providing. You know what I mean? That everyone is thinking, what a loser I am. Like, no
they're
one's
not
thinking about me at all. They don't care. Or I'm going to go to this wedding and I'm going to see all these people in my family who used to think I was beautiful. And now they're going to see that I've gained weight and I'm middle-aged and I have these wrinkles. And everyone is going to look at me and be like, she used to be pretty, but now she's old and fat. I don't know. Are they?
The problem with the second arrow, the stuff you pile on top and the story you tell yourself, I know what you mean, like the idea that suffering is optional. Sometimes your life is hard, but it just means some of that suffering is optional. Like when I look in the mirror, I feel disappointed. I feel disappointed that I don't look as young as I used to. Okay, sit with that, acknowledge that, and then meet it with compassion instead of, and now when they go, probably everybody's thinking, right, that is optional. That part's optional. And that this is what radical acceptance is trying to get around. There's an arrow in your leg.
Right.
You're in pain, and the feelings about the arrow in your leg. And what if everybody sees that there's an arrow in your leg are not doing anything to get the arrow out of your leg?
Yeah, it's a balance between that thing of skipping the suffering. Oh, the suffering is completely optional. I don't believe it's optional. And I think that believing that it's optional can lead you to be like, I will never suffer again because I feel the pain and then nothing else. If your husband commits unseemly crime, it's humiliating. It's embarrassing. People are talking about you. Like, I don't think that you're just, even if you radically accept that your husband did a terrible thing, you're Mrs. Bernie Madoff, right? Your husband has done this terrible thing. It has caused tremendous pain in your family. I think one of his children committed suicide.
Yes, he did.
Cancer. I mean, you can't sit there as Mrs. Madoff and be like, I just radically accept that this wasn't my choice. She had let's take the example.
I would say she
literally
never radically accepted a bit of it. Right.
Right.
It just was like, I'm the same.
Right. That,
Nothing to see here.
I mean, assuming she knows nothing about it, you can't accept your way out of that being a horrendous experience where the entire town shuns you and like your name goes down in history as the worst person ever.
No. I mean, that's a pretty high bar, though.
Yeah. But I do think that your kid doing something embarrassing, like your kid ending up on the parents of where you live page as I saw your kid.
Letting a fire. Right.
Listen, your kid did something really stupid and humiliating. And I don't know. I don't think you're just borrowing the embarrassment.
No, you're not. But acknowledging the embarrassment is the first step.
That's the acceptance.
There's one more huge misconception I had about radical acceptance. I'll tell you what it is after this.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
Do you find yourself staying up until all hours of the night, frantically searching for answers online?
I thought this was just a simple stomachache, but according to Google, it looks like I've got a bleeding ulcer.
Tying yourself in knots by constantly diagnosing yourself and others on the internet?
I knew my child was speech delayed. Right here it says he should have 10 words by 18 months, and he only has 8.
Is the gaping void of search engine-based anxiety sucking you in again and again?
I didn't even know eyeball cancer was a thing, but now I'm like 98% sure I have it.
Try Google Calm.
What? Hey, honey, according to this search, that mole on my thigh, it's absolutely nothing to be concerned about.
With Google Calm, your every internet-based query becomes an exercise in relaxation.
Turns out that new medication I'm taking has no worrying side effects whatsoever. What a relief.
Google Calm makes parenting a breeze.
Guess what, sweetheart? It turns out the fact that our 9-year-old is still having daily temper tantrums is entirely developmentally appropriate.
Google Calm. Search your way to lower anxiety.
Good news! Our house has gone up in value. Again.
From the What Fresh Hell podcast.
So the last thing about radical acceptance that I learned researching this episode that I think is really important to understand is the last piece. It doesn't mean that you don't get to do anything differently going forward. It doesn't mean you don't get to take action. It doesn't mean you don't get to leave. It means that you accept the present moment. My kid is on this list, to use your example from before the break. Like my kid did something bad and now it's in the newspaper, right?
Right.
That's where we're at. I'm feeling really embarrassed about that. He's feeling shame. I'm feeling shame. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling, you're feeling what you're feeling. Sit with that. Give yourself compassion for that. This is the present reality, even though I wish it wasn't true. You're accepting that it's in the paper. You're accepting that it happened and you can't do anything to change that. And that means you can make a different choice for the future. That gives you the sage brain to take the next step towards wise action instead of just, oh, poor me, I can't leave my house because everybody knows. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe that. Brene Brown is the queen of writing about this, but shame is the enemy of all things. It's the enemy of acceptance. It's the enemy of functioning well. It's just shame. It just leads to terrible decisions. We were talking about kids lying on a recent episode. And like, what happens? You tell a lie and then you've got to cover it. And then, and then the trust breaks down. And then, rather than just accepting, I told a lie. I did a stupid thing. I did a thing that makes no sense. I was, for some weird reason, at a store and decided to steal some cheese and I got caught. What? The shame around what the hell told my brain to steal that cheese on a Tuesday when I've never stolen anything in my life.
Right.
I sometimes look at situations and I think I can often see it in other people more well than I can see it in myself. But you have just built a crazy tower of toothpicks around the truth. And now you're standing on top of a crazy tower of toothpicks that feels very unsturdy and very unstable. And your only options are to spend a tremendous amount of time deconstructing this tower of toothpicks and getting back to the ground where you can relate to people.
More duct tape.
Or duct taping it together and just praying. And it takes so much more effort to live on the tower of toothpicks than it does to say, my career worked out the way it did, rather than tap dancing for people all the time. They're like, actually, I have something huge coming up. It's going to be great. Nobody cares.
And like, this didn't work out like I wanted to. You don't need to do a Substack. You don't need to be, stand on the town square with a megaphone. This is for yourself, right? These are things you do. There's a parenting example that Tara Brach uses in her book, Radical Acceptance, that I thought was extremely useful. So she said one of her patients was a mom whose teenager had ADHD. Loving mom. We've all been this parent, doing everything, trying everything. Supplements, therapists, special this, reading every book, listening to every podcast, whatever. Although this was 20 years ago, no podcast, but she's doing the rest of it. Let's put it that way. This kid was still frequently lashing out. There was some emotional lability happening. This kid was rageful frequently. And this mother was living in anguish about that and going to therapy about it, saying, I feel like I'm failing my son. I feel like I should have done more. When her therapist could see clearly that she was doing everything she could, that she was really trying her best. And she was being a loving parent to this son, but she was stuck in this shame spiral, to use a Brene Brown term. And I think the problem is, therefore, you're not parenting the kid in front of you, right? If you're spending all this time wishing this wasn't the case and feeling bad that it's the case, instead of, okay, I've given this kid a lot of help and there's something happening here that needs, what's next? What's next that needs to be addressed? And leave the, why did this happen to me? Why am I such a bad mother? Out of it, because it gets in the way.
I have a friend who says, jokingly, mostly on social media to people, I'm sorry this happened to you. In response to basically anything they post, I'm sorry this happened to you. And then his next response is, this can't be fixed. And it's definitely done tongue in cheek, but it is kind of the cornerstone of radical acceptance. I'm sorry this happened to me. This can't be fixed.
Right.
And
that's it.
And we've started, this whole group of us have started saying it to each other about everything, and it is a weirdly perfect response to 90% of life situations. I'm sorry this happened to you. This can't be fixed. But it is very true about things, because I think that our first reaction to, and again, the flip side is, it's not to say you have a kid with ADHD. Oh, well, just accept it. Sometimes they're violent with you. Like, no, you can't do it.
No. You're going to take action because you can get out of that poor me part. Yeah.
But it's living in the land of, I can make things right through my own efforts. Nothing will ever be wrong if I work hard enough and I do enough. My mother will love me, again, not my own example, if I just fit myself into the right mysterious shape that I haven't figured out yet.
Mm-hmm. And then Tara Brach gave another example about radical acceptance that was, because sometimes I think like you're going to radically accept and then you're going to you either take no action, right? You just become a passive acceptor of terrible behavior.
Right. You're zen in the fire.
Or you walk out and you never walk back, right? And then you're, a country song and you're scorched earth behind you. But sometimes it's neither. So
you're Angela Bassett throwing the match behind you.
Yeah, exactly. So she gave an example of another person she knew who, after practicing radical acceptance, was able to go to family events and spend time with her mother, because that was the choice she made for the greater good of the family. I'm going to show up for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I'm going to take that action. I can separate it from my emotions. This is what I want to do, and I'm able to do that and coexist peacefully. That sometimes radical acceptance can lead to acceptance instead of, I'm not going to take this for one more minute. So radical acceptance, I'm thinking of like, my kid is not cut out for college and is not going to college, right? And you can spend a lot of time wishing that's not the case and thinking there must be one more thing you can try and whatever. And then you parent the kid in front of you and you accept the reality, which is not so terrible. It's all this second arrow stuff that can get in the way. That's not always true. But I think sometimes the second arrow stuff is worse than the arrow was in the first place.
Absolutely. And I will say I'm a therapy proponent, but I do think some of this stuff, it would help to do with a therapist.
Sure,
like
right.
Saying for the first time, my mother never really loved me for who I am. Saying for the first time, my husband has a drug problem or whatever, any example you can think of, my child is frightening me, whatever, these really hard truths, or just I feel really insecure in my body at middle age, or whatever the thing is. Some of these truths are very hard to say for a reason. But on the flip side, the older I get, the more I realize you're not fooling anyone. Everyone else has accepted what's going on with you. Whether or not they care, you're not fooling them that you're the happiest person on the block. You're not fooling them that everything's amazing in your marriage. You're not fooling them that your kid, you did everything right and now he's going to Harvard. You're working so hard to present something that if you just accepted it, it's the wolf at the door. Just open the door and stare at it. It's not as scary as you think when you're imagining it under the covers in your bed.
Can we use one more low stakes example?
Yes.
Because I think it's important to, like, it isn't always like.
I've been using a lot of high stakes.
My kid is a kleptomaniac. And look, everybody's got their something. I'm sure everybody listening has some big situation, but you can apply this in smaller ways. So this is, again, Tara Brach talked about this in her book, that say you're a parent who loses their temper regularly with their kids. And there's nobody in the newspaper saying this. You just know this to be true, that you start by examining your thoughts and feelings. How am I feeling right now? How am I feeling before I yell at the kids? How am I feeling after I yell at the kids? Examine that. Where is that coming from? And then she suggested that it might be you're too stressed, that you're too stressed to handle their needs. You're taking it out on them. Maybe you're subconsciously pushing your kids away because you can't handle how much they need you, whatever. Like, explore what those feelings are and then sit with them and then think about the second arrow of the shame that you're feeling when you see that you made them feel bad, whatever. Explore all of those feelings. And then you have compassion that you have those feelings. It is stressful to parent little kids. It is all the time on. Have compassion for your kids, feeling upset that you yelled at them, right? You compassion for everybody. And then she wants you to go out kind of 30,000 feet to, you don't want to suffer. You don't want to cause suffering. Nobody does.
I wouldn't say nobody, but okay. Nobody listening.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody listening to this. You don't want to suffer? No, of course you don't. Literally, nobody wants to suffer.
Right.
And nobody wants to cause suffering. Okay, maybe a few people do, but most of us don't. Not to our kids. And so just returning to that, like, I'm feeling really stressed that I can't handle this. Okay, that's a better, now you can take sage action. I might need to get a mother's helper from the local college to come from 4 to 6 on weekdays. I might need to tell my spouse that you have to step it up around here. I might need to, right? There are things you can do about that besides I'm the worst mother in the world that I yell at my kids.
Amy, you solved it. I really feel like this was so useful for me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's another episode here about just figuring out, like, what is a variable? What is a constant? Like having a lot of thoughts around this, because this was super, super useful. It lives in the wisdom to know the difference part. And I think
that's really hard.
Doing another episode around how we're figuring those things out
could be really
difference. Useful. I like that idea.
Yeah, I have a friend in the 12-step world who really highlighted that phrase to me, the wisdom to know the difference, that was the last and hardest part of the Serenity Prayer.
Absolutely. So listen, do you have someone in your life who needs a little radical acceptance or who you've talked to about radical acceptance and you realize, oops, I might have had this wrong? You can share this episode right in the app. Hit the share button. You can just text about it, post about it on social media. Let people know if this episode helped you out. And with that, thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
So long, everybody.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.